Hello everyone, welcome back to the Anonymous World. Hope you all are doing well. So this is the third video from the AD series. So let's get started. Okay, so the third room in the Active Directory path of TryHackMe is enumerating Active Directory. So let's see what we have to do yet. Let's start uh, our network. Okay, it's already running. I didn't saw that. It's running for 49 minutes. Okay, so why AD enumeration? So this network is the continuation of the breaching AD network. So please make sure to complete the previous rooms, which is Introduction to Active Directory Basics and the breaching AD as well. Okay. So AD enumeration. So once we have the first set of AD credentials and the means to authenticate with them on the network, a complete new world of possibilities opens up. Now we can start enumerating various details about the Active Directory setup and structure with authenticated access, even with super low privileged access. So once you are inside something, you have more ways to find many new things. So we can enumerate more. So during a red team engagement, it usually lead to us being able to perform some of privilege escalation or lateral movement to gain additional access until we have sufficient privileges to execute and reach our goals. So in most cases, enumeration and exploitation are heavily entwined. Once an attack path shown by the enumeration phase has been exploited, it is again performed from this new privileged position as shown in the diagram below. So it works like a cycle. You got access to something, then you will enumerate, then you will exploit that whole path, then you will gain a new access, then again you will enumerate from that point of view, and it keeps going on. So you can say in this diagram, initial recon, then initial compromise, then we got the establish the foothold, then escalate the privileges, then again internal recon, move laterally, maintain presence, then escalate privileges, then again it keeps going on until the mission is completed once we reach at the top. So learning objective for this room. So in this network we will cover several methods that can be used to enumerate AD. This is by no means a complete list, as available methods are usually highly situational and dependent on the acquired breach. So we will cover the following techniques: the AD snap-ins of the Microsoft Management Console, the net commands of command prompt, the ADRSAT CMD of PowerShell, and the Bloodhound. So make sure you are taking notes while doing these rules, as it may help later. So connecting to the network. So I think the process is same as the breaching AD. So anyway, let's see this once again. So if you are using the web-based attack box, we will connect it to the network automatically. If you start the attack box from the rooms page, you can verify this by using the ping command against the IP of thmdc.za trackme.host, and we will need to configure the DNS like we did in the previous video. Okay, other hosts. So if you are going to use your own attack machine, and open VPN configuration file will have been generated. Once you join this room, go to your access page and download the AD enumeration VPN file, and then we will be need to set up the network manager and configure the DNS. So okay, let's download our VPN file. Okay, go to networks and then select AD enumeration. Okay, let's download this file. Okay, it's downloaded. What's the IP? 10.200.8.101. Okay, so let's connect. Open VPN. This one is out. Okay, so we are complete. We are connected. Let's move to network manager. Here advanced into configuration, wired connection 1. So we will edit this IPv4 settings, additional DNS server. So 10.200.8.11. 8. System CTL restart network manager. So now we can do NS lookup. Yeah, it's working perfectly. Let's create a new directory. Enum. Great. So now requesting your credentials. So to simulate an AD breach, we are provided with our first set of AD credentials. Once our network is set up, we can navigate here and request our new credential pair. Go there, click get credentials. Okay, so our username is Philip.Wait, password is 1987. Okay, let's save this. So this credential pair will provide us RDP and SSH access to thmjmp1.0tryhackme.com. It can be seen as jump host into this environment, simulating a foothold that we have achieved. So jump hosts are often targeted by the red team since they provide access to a new network segment. We can either use Remina or any other similar RDP client to connect to this host for RDP. And remember to specify the domain name of z.tryhackme when connecting. Task 2 and Task 3 will require RDP access. And for SSH, we may use this particular command. So let's see. Okay. When prompted, provides your account's associated password. Although RDP can be used for all tasks, SSH is faster and can be used for task 4, 5, and 6. Okay. I've completed reaching into network. I've connected to the network. I have requested my credential pair. Okay, so let's find it not installed. Install it. Now you can use other clients also like Xfree RDP, but personally I like Remina, so I use that. Okay, let's move on to task 2. Till then it will get installed. So before jumping into task 2 is credential injection. So before jumping into AD objects and enumeration, let's first learn about credential injection methods. From the breaching AD network, you would have seen that credentials are often found without compromising a domain joined machine. Specific enumeration techniques may require a particular setup to work. Now, Windows versus Linux. There is a quote. Let's see. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer defeat. Sun Tzu, Art of War. Sorry for the pronunciation. So we can get incredibly far doing AD enumeration from a Kali machine. Still, if we genuinely want to do in-depth enumeration and even exploitation, we need to understand and mimic our enemy. So we will need a Windows machine. This will allow us to use several built-in methods to stage our enumeration and exploits. So in this network, we will explore one of these built-in tools called the runas.exe binary. So run as explained. Have you ever found AD credentials but nowhere to log in with them? Run as may be the answer you have been looking for. So in many security assessments, you will often have network access and have just discovered AD credentials, but have no means or privileges to create a new domain join machine. So we need the ability to use those credentials on a Windows machine we control. If we have the AD credentials in the format of column, we can use run as legitimate Windows binary or legitimate Windows binary to inject the credentials into memory. So the usual command is something like that: the binary name, then slash net only slash user colon domain, then slash username, and then cmd.exe. So net only, what is net only? Since we are not domain joined, we want to load the credentials for network authentication, but not authenticate against a domain controller. So commands executed locally on the computer will run in the context of our own standard Windows account, but any network connection will occur using the account specified here. Okay, then the second is user. So here we provide the details of the domain and the username. It is always safe but to use the fqdn instead of just the NetBIOS name of the domain, since this will help with the resolution. And the last one is cmd.exe. So this is the main program we want to execute once the credentials are injected. So after running this command, we will be prompted to supply a password. Note that since we added a net only parameter, the credentials will not be verified directly by a domain controller so that it will accept any password. So when we provide net only, whatever username and password we give, it is not directly verified by domain controller, and hence it accepts any password whether it is wrong or correct. So if you use your own Windows machine, you should make sure that you run your first command prompt as administrator. This will inject an administrator token into CMD. So if you run tools that require local administrative privileges from your unspawned CMD, the token will already be available. It's always DNS. So no, these next steps you only need to perform if you use your own Windows machine for the exercise. However, it is good knowledge to learn how to perform since it may be helpful on red team exercises. So we are not using our own Windows machine for this exercise, so it's not necessary for us. So, but you must know about this. After providing the password, a new command prompt will open, and we still need to verify that our credentials are working. So the most surefire way to do this is to list sysvol. Any AD account, no matter how low privilege access it has, we have can read the contents of this sysvol directory. So what is sysvol? It is a folder that exists on all DCs, and it is a shared folder storing the GPOs, which stand for Group Policy Objects, about which we learned in the first room, basics of Active Directory, and information along with any other domain related scripts. Okay, so domain joined computers can read these GPOs and apply the applicable ones, making domain wide configuration changes from a central location. Okay, so before we can list sysvol, we need to configure our DNS. So sometimes you're lucky and internal DNS will be configured for you automatically through DHCP or the VPN connection, but not always like this TryHackMe network. Okay. Ethernet will be whatever interface connected to TryHackMe, so we can verify the DNS is working by running the following. Okay, so they are connected with SSH. We should now resolve the domain controller IPs, and this is where the FQDN is being hosted. Okay, so we won't go too much in depth now into the contents of sysvol, but now that it is also good to enumerate its contents since there may be some additional AD credentials lurking there. Okay, so we will go there later. So now IP versus host names. There is a question. What is the difference between dir z.tryhackme.com sysvol and dir domain controller IP sysvol, and why there is a big fuss about the DNS? So what's the difference? So there is quite a difference, and it boils down to the authentication method being used. So when the user is providing the host name, network authentication will attempt first to perform Kerberos authentication. And since this authentication uses host names embedded in the tickets, if we provide the IP instead, we can force the authentication type to NTLM. So we learned about two types of authentication, net NTLM, one was net NTLM and another was Kerberos authentication. So while on the surface this does not matter to us right now, it is good to understand these slight differences since they can allow you to remain more stealthy during a red team assessment. Okay, so in some instances, organizations will be monitoring for overpass and pass the hash attacks. Forcing NTLM authentication is a good trick to have in the book to avoid detection in these cases. Okay, so using injected credentials, now that we've injected our AD credential into memory, this is where the fun begins. With the net only option, all network communication will use these injected credentials for authentication. So this includes all network communications of applications executed from that command prompt window, and this is where it becomes potent. Okay, so let's see. Have you ever heard? Have you ever had a case where an MS SQL database uses Windows authentication and you were not domain joined? Not with me. Start MS SQL Studio from that command prompt. Even though it shows your local username, click login and it will use the AD credentials in the background to authenticate. So we can even use this to authenticate to web applications that uses NTLM authentication. So we'll be using that in the next task for our first AD enumeration technique. So what native Windows binary allows to inject credentials legitimately into memory, run as .exe. What parameter option of the run as binary will ensure that the injected credentials are used for all network connections. Net only. What network folder on a domain controller is accessible by any authenticated AD account and stores the GPU information. This one. So when performing dir directories editor.tryhackme.com sysvol, what type of authentication is performed by default? So here host name is used. So it is used doing Kerberos authentication. Yeah, I think great. Moving forward, task 3 enumeration through Microsoft Management Console. Okay. So by now you should have completed the AD basics rooms where different AD objects were initially introduced. So in this task, it will be assumed that you understand what these objects are. So connect to THMJMP1 using RDP and your provision credentials from task 1 to perform this task. Okay, so let's fire up our Remina. I think it's Remina. Okay, so what's our IP? 10.208.248. 8.248. Accept certificate, yes. So username and password. Philip I. The password is scooter 1987. Domain is red.tryhackme.com. I think we are correct. Let's see. Okay, so in this task, we will explore our first enumeration method, which is the only method that makes use of a GUI until the very last task. Okay, so we will be using the Microsoft Management Console with the remote server administrator tools, AD snap-ins. So if you use the provided Windows VM, it has already been installed for you. However, if you are using an own Windows machine, you can perform the following steps to install the snap-ins. Press start, apps and feature, manage optional feature, add a feature, select RST, Active Directory, domain service, and lightweight directory tools. Think like me. Okay, so you can start MMC by using the Windows Start button. Search, run, and typing in MMC. If we just run MMC normally, it would not work as our computer is not domain joined and our local account cannot be used to authenticate to the domain. So this is where the run as Windows from the previous task comes into play. In that window, we can start MMC, which will ensure that all MMC network connection will use our injected ID credentials. Okay, let's see if we are connected. We are connected. So let's see. Okay, so click on File, Add, Remove, Snap in, and then click through, select and add all three Active Directory snap-ins. Okay, so let's add all three sites and servers. Third one is users and computers. Okay, So click through any errors environments, right click on Active Directory Domains and Trust and select Change Forest. Change Forest. Okay. So in the first room we learned about trees and forests. So enter z0tryhackme.com as a root domain and click OK. So it's already there. So right click on the Active Directory the sites and services. Change Forest. Okay. Enter z0tryhackme.com. And similarly do this for the third one. Okay. It's up again. Right click on the Active Directory users and computers. In the left hand pane, click on View Advanced Features. Okay, View Advanced Features. So if everything up to this point works correctly, your MMC should now be pointed to and authenticated against the target domain. Okay. Now we can now start enumerating information about the state structure here. Users and computers. So let's take a look at the Active Directory structure. For this task, we'll focus on AD users and computers. Expand the snap in and expand the ZA domain to see the initial organization unit structure. Okay, so we can this. We have admins, bulletin, computer, console, domain controller, groups, server, system, user, workstation. Okay, so there are so many organizational units. So let's take a look at people directory. Here we see that the users are divided according to department organizational units. Click on each of the OUs which show the users that belong to that particular department. So let's go to people. So there are different departments: consulting, engineering, finance, IT, human resource, marketing, sales. So we can see different users available there. Some are repeated too, I guess. Means same person into different departments. So clicking on any of these users will allow us to review all of their properties and attributes. We can also see what groups they are member of. We can also use MMC to find hosts in the environment. If we click on either servers or workstation, the list of domain joined machine will be displayed. Let's see. Okay, so there are other domain joined machines available: THMIIS, THMMDT. So if we had the relevant in permissions, we could also use MMC to directly make changes to Active Directory, such as changing a user's password or adding an account to a specific group. So play around with MMC to better understand the AD domain structure. Make use of the search feature to look for objects. Now, what are the benefits and drawbacks of this particular method, that using Microsoft Management Console? So benefits. So the GUI provides an excellent method to gain a holistic view of the AD environment. Okay. So almost everyone prefer GUI than command line. Rapid searching of different AD objects can be performed. It provides a direct method to view specific updates of AD objects, and if a user have a sufficient privileges, he or she can directly update existing AD objects or add new ones. Now, what are the drawbacks? So the first drawback is the GUI requires RDP access to the machine where it is executed. And although searching for an object is fast, gathering AD-wide properties or attributes cannot be performed. So let's answer some questions. How many computer objects are part of the server's OU? Okay, it's two. How many computer objects are part of workstation OU? Okay, workstation. One. How many departments does this organization consist of? If it's under people, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, I guess. How many admin tiers does this organization have? Admin tier. three admins, T0, T1, T2, three tiers. What is the value of the flag stored in the description attribute of the T0 underscore times Tina's dot green account? Okay, go there. Okay, here I'm user. It is the pass flag. Which I'm enumerating via MMC. Okay, so let's go ahead enumerating through command prompt. Okay, so for task 4 we can use SSH. Let's connect via SSH for now. We can minimize that. We can open this. So what was the command to connect with SSH? Username. The username was Philip. Dot, okay. Password is 1987. Yeah, we are in. So there are times when we just need to perform a quick and dirty AD lookup, fast, and command prompt has our back. Good old reliable CMD is handy when we perhaps don't have RDP access to a system. Defenders are monitoring for powerful use, and we need to perform our AD enumeration through a remote access to Zone or RAT. It can even be helpful to embed a couple of simple AD enumeration commands in our phishing payload to help gain the vital information that can help stage us the final attack. So the command prompt has some built-in commands that can be used to enumerate information about Active Directory, namely net. The net command is a handy tool to enumerate information about the local system and AD. So we will be looking about a couple of interesting things we can enumerate from this position, but this is not an exhaustive list. Again, and every say they say this is not an exhaustive list. There are many more things. So for this start, we will have to use THM-JMP1 and won't be able to use our own Windows VM. So this will be explained in the drawbacks. So users. So we can use the net command to list all users in the AD domain by using the user sub option. Okay, so we can use net user then domain. Okay, okay, there are a hell lot of users available. Almost with every alphabet there is one user. Anyways, okay, so this will return all AD users for us and can be helpful in determining the size of the domain to stage further attacks. We can also use this sub option to enumerate more detailed information about a single user account. So net user then followed by the username and the domain. Okay, so it will give more details like full name, then account, whether account is active or not, when the account expires, password, whether password is required or not, last date, expiry date, and many more things. So if the user is only part of a small number of AD groups, this command will be able to show us group memberships. However, usually after more than 10 group membership, the command will fail to list them all. So we can use the net command to enumerate the groups of the domain by using the group sub option. Okay, so let's try that. Instead of net user, we can use net group. Okay, so there are these many groups: clonable domain controllers, domain admin, domain computers, tier 1 admins, tier 2 admins, schema admins, and many more. Okay, so this information can help us find a specific group to target for goal execution. So we could also enumerate more details such as membership to a group by specifying the group name in the same command. Okay, We can use the net command to enumerate the password policy of the domain by using the by using the account sub option. So let's try that too. Okay, so here are some password options. So maximum password age, minimum password age, maximum password is unlimited, minimum password length is 0, length of password history none. So this will provide us with helpful information such as length of password, minimum length, maximum age. Okay, so all this information can help us if we want to stage additional password spring attacks against the other user account that we have now enumerated. So now we know about all the users, all the groups present, and which user have the membership to a particular group, and then the and we also know the password policy. So it is uh, yeah, helpful to stage a good attack. So it can help us better guess what single password we should use in the attack and how many attacks can we run before we risk locking accounts. However, it should be noted that if we perform a blind password spring attack, we may lock out accounts anyway since we did not check to determine how many attempts that a specific account had left. So we can find a full range of options associated with the net command here. Play around with this net command to gather information about specific users and groups. So let's see benefits and drawbacks of using net. So benefits, no additional or external tooling is required, and this simple command are often not monitored by the blue team. Okay, so it is a very small command net, and blue teams doesn't care much to monitor these. Anyways, you can but you should use every command carefully, and we do not need a GUI to do this enumeration. VB script and other macro languages that are often used for phishing payloads support these commands natively. So hence they can be used to enumerate initial information regarding the AD and before and it will help to create more specific payloads. And now what are the drawbacks? The net command must be executed from a domain join machine, and if the machine is not domain join, it will default to the work group domain. So it is completely useless until unless it is executed from a domain join machine. And second drawback is it may not show all the information. So for example, if a user is a member of more than 10 groups, not all these groups will be shown in the output. So in this document, more options are given to use with net accounts, computer config, continue, file, group, help, and etc. Example, input and outputs are given too. Okay, so apart from the domain user group, what other group is the Aaron Harris account a member of? Okay, so let's enumerate Aaron Harris. Username could not be found. I think it's double R. Yeah, full name Aaron Harris. Account expires never. Last log on never. Internet access. So global group membership, domain users, and internet access is a part of only two group. So is the guest account active? So let's see whether it is active or not. Net user guest domain. Okay. Okay. So account active? No, it isn't active. May. How many accounts are a member of the tier 1 admin groups? So let's net group tier 1 admins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 users are part of tier 1 admin groups. What is the account lockout duration of the current password policy in minutes? Lockout duration, okay, was net accounts. Lockout duration in minutes is 30 minutes. Perfect. Now moving to task 5, enumerating through PowerShell. PowerShell is very powerful. So PowerShell is the upgrade of command prompt. It was first released in 2006 by Microsoft. While PowerShell has all the standard functionality command prompt for command prompt provides, it also provides access to CMDlets, which is pronounced as commandlets, okay, which are .NET classes to perform specific functions. So here we can write our own commandlets like the creators of PowerView did, and we can already get very far using the built-in ones. So since we install the ADRS 80 tooling in the task 3, it automatically install the associated commandlets for us. So there are more than 50 commandlets installed. We will be looking at some of these, but you can refer to this particular list of example, a particular list of commandlets. So using our SSH terminal, we can upgrade it to a PowerShell terminal using the following command: PowerShell. So users, we can use the get AD user commandlet to enumerate AD users. So the command here given is get AD user identity Gordon.Stevens, then the server and the properties, then a wildcard. So here the let's look up see parameters. So identity, the account name that we are enumerating. Properties, which properties associated with the account will be shown. So here wildcard will show all the properties, and the server, since we are not domain joined, we have to use this parameter to point it to our domain controller. Okay, so let's try this. PowerShell, okay, get AD user. Okay, so you can see here is a big detail about Gordon.Stevens. Account expiration date, account expires, account not delegated, then the cannot change passwords is set to false, chemical name. Okay, so display name, last logon timestamp, last logon date. So it gives us much uh, much amount of detail. So let's see what we need to do ahead. So for most of these commandlets, we can also use the filter parameter that allows more control over enumeration, and use the format table commandlet to display the results such as the following neatly. Okay. Okay, so you can see it gives in a table format, and everyone has Stevens at their end because we use this particular parameter filter. A name like is anything before Stevens, but it should end with Stevens. Let's go ahead. Now groups. So we can use the groups by using get AD group commandlet to enumerate AD groups. For user, it's what AD users and get AD user, and for groups it is get AD group. Okay, let's run this as well. So make sure you write all these commands somewhere in your note. So we can also enumerate group membership using the get AD group member commandlet. Okay, so name, domain admin, subject, class, group. Now AD objects. A more generic search for any AD object can be performed using the get AD object commandlet. For example, if you are looking for all AD objects that were changed after a specific date, so we can use get AD object filter. Then our filtering criteria will be when changed, GT change date, include deleted objects. Okay, so if we wanted to, for example, perform a password spraying attack without locking out accounts, We can use this to enumerate accounts that have a bad password count that is greater than 0 to avoid these accounts in our attack. Okay, so this will only show if one of the user in the network mistype a password couple of times. So let's see if there is any user who mistyped their password. Okay, so these are the user who mistyped their password. So they may have uh, potential to lock their account after certain number of tries. So domains. So we can enumerate domains, get additional information about the specific domain using get ad domain. So we have seen get ad user, get ad object, get ad group, get ad group member, and then get ad domain. Okay. So altering ad objects. So the great thing about the ADRS ATX commandlets is that some even allow you to create new or alter existing AD objects. However, our focus for this network is on enumeration. So creating new objects or altering existing one would be considered as AD exploitation, which will be covered in the later module of Active Directory. So an example is given below. So in this example, a password is being changed of the AD user using set AD account password commandlet. So set AD account password, then identity is given, Gordon Steven, the server is given, then old password, and then force parameter is used to set a new password. So remember to change the identity value and password for the account you were provided with for enumeration on the distributor page, web page in task 1. Okay, so let's try changing the password for philip.reid. Try that. Okay, so we need to change the identity. It's Philip. Server will be same, old password. So 1987 and the new password. The 19. Great, that's done. So what are the benefits of PowerShell? So the PowerShell commandlets can enumerate significantly more information than the net commands from command prompt. So while running both the commands, we saw how PowerShell gives more detailed information than the net command. So we can specify the server and domain to execute this command using run as from a non-domain join machine. And also we can create our own commandlets to enumerate specific information. Okay, so we can also use to directly change AD objects such as resetting passwords or adding a user to a specific group. Now, what are the drawbacks? The major drawback of using PowerShell is that it is often monitored by the blue teams and it is monitored more than command prompt. So we have to install, and another drawback is we have to install the ADRS tooling or use other potentially detectable scripts for PowerShell enumeration. What is the value of the title attribute of Beth Nolan? So let's see about Beth Nolan. Let's clear the terminal. Okay, let's see get user. Beth dot Nolan. Okay, what we were asked, what is the value of the title attribute? Okay, so let's see. It's senior. I think we could have done it like this. Yeah, well, senior. Okay, let's go ahead. What is the value of the distinguished name attribute of Anity Manning? Anity Manning. Okay, let's try again. See, distinguished name. Okay, CN is an admining. Organizational unit is marketing. When was the tier 2 admins group created? Let's see. Get AD group. Tier 2 admin. Okay. When was the tier 2 admin groups created? Okay, so we didn't use properties. Yeah. So creation date when created. I think this is the answer. Let's see. Sorry, so I copied when changed. It's for when created. Now, what is the value of the SID attribute of the enterprise admins group? Admin, it is in one. Price. Okay, so SID value is this. So PowerShell is much better than net tool, net command. So which container is used to store deleted AD objects? You can use get AD domain, and our server is reddit.tryhackme.com. Okay, okay, it's already here. Deleted objects container. Deleted objects. This nice. So moving to last task, which is task 6, enumeration through Bloodhound. Okay, so lastly we will look at performing AD enumeration using Bloodhound. So it is the most powerful AD enumeration tool to till date, and when it was released in 2016, it changed the AD enumeration landscape forever. So a little bit of history is given about Bloodhound. For a significant amount of time, red teamers and unfortunately attackers had the upper hand. So much so that the Microsoft integrated their own version of Bloodhound in its advanced state protection solution, and it all came down to the following phrase: Defender think in lists, attacker thinks in graph. Hackers think in graphs. Unknown. So Bloodhound allowed attackers and by now defenders too to visualize the AD environment in a graph format with interconnected nodes. So each connection is a possible path that could be exploited to reach a goal. In contrast, the defenders used lists like a list of domain admins or a list of all the hosts in the environment. And this graph-based thinking opened up a world to attackers. It allowed for a two-stage attack. So in the first stage, the attackers would perform phishing attacks to get an initial entry to enumerate AD information. This initial payload was usually incredibly noisy and would be detected and contained by the blue team before the attacker even could perform any action, apart from exfiltrating the enumerated data. But the attackers could now use this data offline to create an attack path in graph format, showing precisely the steps and hops required. So it is often even faster than it would take the blue team to receive their first alert. So this is the power of thinking in graphs, which is why so many blue teams have also started to use these type of tools to understand their security posture better. Sharphound. You will also often hear users refer to Sharphound and Bloodhound interchangeably, but they are not the same. Sharphound is the enumeration tool of the Bloodhound. It is used to enumerate the AD information that can be visually displayed in Bloodhound. So Bloodhound is the actual GUI used to display the AD attack graphs. So first we'll need to learn how to use Sharphound to enumerate AD before we can go into Bloodhound. So there are three different Sharphound collectors. Sharphound.ps1. It is a PowerShell script for running Sharphound, but the latest release of Sharphound has stopped releasing the PowerShell scripts. So this version is good to use with RAT since the script can be loaded directly into memory. Then another is sharphound.exe. It is a Windows executable version of the same. And the third is azurehound.ps1. It is a PowerShell script for running Sharphound for Azure instances. Azure instances. So Bloodhound can ingest data enumerator from Azure to find attack paths related to configuration of its identity and access management. So a note is given. The Bloodhound and Sharphound versions must match for the best results. Usually there are updates made to Bloodhound, which means old Sharphound results cannot be ingested. So this network was created using Bloodhound version 4.1.0. Please make sure to use this version with the Sharphound results. When using these collector scripts on an assessment, there is a high likelihood that these files will be detected as malware and raise an alert to the blue teams. So again, where our Windows machine that is non-domain joined can assist. We can use the run as command to inject the AD credentials and point Sharphound to a domain controller. So here we control this Windows machine. We can either disable the AV or create exception for specific files or folders, which has already been performed by us on the THM JMP1 machine. So we can find the Sharphound binaries in C tools directory. We will use the sharphound.exe version for our enumeration, but we are free to play around with the other two as well. So first, let's go there. So we have here sharphound.exe. Okay, copy sharphound.exe collection methods, then the method name, domain, and exclude DC. So what are these parameters? Collection method determine what kind of data Sharphound would collect. The most common option are default or all. And since Sharphound caches information once the first run has been completed, we can only use the session collection method to retrieve new user session to speed up the process. Then a domain name is a domain name we want to enumerate. Exclude DCS. This will instruct Sharphound not to touch domain controller, which reduces the likelihood that a Sharphound run will raise an alert. So, using our SSH PowerShell session from the previous task, copy the Sharphound binary to your AD users document directory. Okay, so let's copy the Sharphound. Date. Now let's go to documents. Okay, so here is our sharphound.exe. So we will run Sharphound using the all and session collection methods. Okay. Okay, the term sharphound.exe is not recognized. That's because it is small. Okay, the term sharphound.exe is not recognized in the name of single function script file. Check the spelling of the name or if a path included. Let's try this. Great, it is working now. So let's see, it will take about 1 minute for sharphound to perform the enumeration, and in larger organization, they can take a quite longer. Once completed, we will have a timestamped zip file in the same folder we executed sharphound from. Now we can use Bloodhound to ingest this zip to show us attack path visually. So as mentioned before, Bloodhound is a GUI that allows us to import data captured by Sharphound and visualize it into attack paths. So Bloodhound uses Neo4j as its backend database and graphing system. So it is a graph database management system. If we are using AttackBox, we may use the red Bloodhound icon in the dock to launch it. And in other cases, make sure Bloodhound and Neo4j are installed and configured on the attacking machine. Either way, it is good to understand what happens in the background before we can start Bloodhound. We need to load Neo4j. Okay, let's see. dir. Yeah, our zip file is ready. So now either we can use AttackBox or we can use our own Kali machine. So first, let's see if I have Neo4j installed. Also Bloodhound. It is not installed. So let's install it. And do we have Bloodhound? Okay, so we need to have both of the things. So I think it will take a bit of time. So till then, let's open our attack box and see whatever starts first. Okay, I think attack box will win. Okay, so let's see. In another terminal tab, run Bloodhound no sandbox. This will show you the authentication GUI. Log into Neo4j database. So default credentials are Neo4j, Neo4j. Use this to authenticate in Bloodhound. To import our result, you will need to recover the zip file. The simplest way is to use scp ad username. So once you have provided your password, this will copy the results to your current working directory. Drag and drop the zip file in the Bloodhound GUI to import into Bloodhound. It will show that it is extracting file and initiating the import. Once all the files have been imported, we can start using Bloodhound to enumerate attack paths for the specific domain. So let's wait. Okay, Neo4j is done. Time for Bloodhound. Yep. Okay, it is a small file, so attack box is also loaded. So now I have installed Neo4j and also installing Bloodhound. So let's wait and we will do this on our own Kali. So till then we can copy that file using scp. Okay, scp it was philip.t@. Okay, then the zip file name, what was it? Yeah, that's it. No such file or directory AD. Uh-oh, how did I miss that? It's Philip. It should work now. What about Bloodhound? It's getting installed. I think it's a big file, so it is taking a bit of time. SCP could not resolve hostname, name or service not known. Why the hell it is not for? Okay, it's due to VPN. Oh, time is still left. I'm trying this with tag box. See, password was shooter 1987. Okay, I think I changed the password. Yeah, so ls. Okay, so the Bloodhound zip file is here. So let's start our Neo4j and the Bloodhound. How about if we view our tag box in full screen? Okay, it is open. We also need to open Bloodhound. So it is the Bloodhound. Database is not running. Okay, so default password credentials is already given. Neo4j, Neo4j, querying database. Let's see what we need to do. So we are done till there. So once you provide the password, this will copy the results to your current working directory. Drag and drop the zip file onto the Bloodhound GUI to import to import into Bloodhound. Okay, drag and drop. Let's see what we have here. Database info. This is import graph, export graph. Okay, let's drop the file. Upload complete. Computer.json, user.json, group.json, domain, GPOs, OUs. Okay, so they all are getting uploaded. So once all the files have been imported, we can start using Bloodhound to enumerate attack paths for the specific domain. So there are several paths that Bloodhound can show. Pressing the three stripes next to the search for a node will show the option. The very first step shows us the information regarding our current imports. So note that if you import a new run of Sharphound, it would cumulatively increase these counts. So first we'll look at node info. Let's search for our AD account in Bloodhound. You must click on the node to refresh the view. Also note you can change the label scheme by pressing left control. Okay, let's see. Clear, finished. Okay, so I think all are uploaded. Three stripes. So group set, computers 4. Key analysis. Find all domain admins. Domain admins at TryHackMe. Who is this administrator? Okay, we have tier 0 admin, and this one is tier 0 minus green. Okay, so what we need to do now? So first we'll look at the node info. Let's search for our AD account in Bloodhound. You must click on the node to refresh the view. Also note you can change the label scheme by pressing left control. Search for Philip dot right. So next we'll be looking at the analysis queries. These are queries that these are the queries that the creators of Bloodhound have written themselves to enumerate helpful information. Pre-built queries are domain information, dangerous rights, Kerberos interactions, hottest paths. Under the domain information section, we can run the find all domain admin queries. Note you press left control to change the label display settings. So these icons are called nodes and the lines are called edges. Let's take a deeper dive into what Bloodhound is showing us in the given diagram. So there is an AD user account with the name of 0t0 underscore tennis.green. Okay, and it is the member of the group tier 0 admins, but this group is a nested group into the domain admins group, meaning all users that are part of tier 0 admins groups are effectively domain admins. So furthermore, there is an additional AD account with the username of administrator that is part of domain admins group. So hence there are two accounts in our attack surface that we can probably attempt to compromise if we want to gain domain admin rights. Since the administrator account is a built-in account, we would likely focus on the user account instead, which is T0 minus green. So each AD object that was discussed in the previous task can be noded in Bloodhound. Sorry, and each will have a different icon depicting the type of object it is. So now if you want to formulate an attack path, we need to look at the available edges between the current position and privileges we have had where we want to go. Bloodhound has various available edges that can be accessed by the filter icon. So it is known as edge filtering. So these are also constantly being updated as new vectors are discovered, and we will be looking at exploiting these different edges in a future network. So for this task, however, let's look at the most basic attack path using only the default and some special edges. So let's go there. Let's go to analysis. Okay. We will run a search in Bloodhound. Enumerate the attack path. Press the path icon to allow for path searching. Okay, so let's go there and select for path searching. Is there? Then we need to give start node and target node. So our start node would be our AD username, and our end node will be the tier 1 admins group since the group has administrative privileges over servers. our target node. So we have tier 0 admin, tier 0 admins. Okay, so our start node would be our AD username and tier 1 admins group since this group has administrative privileges. So if there is no available attack path using the selected edge filters, Bloodhound will display no results found. This may be also due to Bloodhound Sharphound mismatch, meaning the results were not properly ingested. So make sure versions are changed. So in our case, Bloodhound shows an attack path. It shows that one of the tier 1 admin account broke the tiering model by using their credentials to authenticate to THM-GMP1, which is a workstation. It is also it also shows that any user that is part of domain user group, including our AD account, has the ability to RDP. Okay, so before questions, let's see about benefits and drawbacks. So benefits: it provides a GUI for AD enumeration, has the ability to show attack paths for the enumerated AD information, and it also provides more profound insights into AG objects that usually require several manual queries. And drawback: it requires the execution of Sharphound, which is very noisy and can be often detected, and also both the versions would match. So what command can we use to execute sharphound.exe and request that it recovers session information only from z.trackme.com without touching domain controller? So I think this should be the answer. Apart from the KRB TGT account, how many other accounts are potentially Kerberos stable? Okay, okay, one, two, three, four, five. There are only five. Five. Okay, so remove one. We have four. How many machines do member of the tier one admin group have administrative access to? Git ID, group members. How many machines do members of tier one admins group have administrative access? Okay, direct number seven, unknown number seven. Local admin rights. Three. Yeah, I think it's two. How many users are member of the tier two admins group? How about changing it to two? Tier two, so there are total of 15 members. I think that's it. Finally, the room is done. And please tell me why that graph was not working. Please comment down or tell in comment section. I will check that out later. So moving to conclusion. So enumerating AD is a massive task. So proper AD enumeration is required to better understand the structure of the domain and determine attack path that can be leveraged to perform relay escalation or the lateral movement. So there are some additional enumeration techniques given. First one is LDAP enumeration, then the power view and the Windows management instrumentation. So you can go through them in detail. So we should also note that this room focused on enumerating the structure of AD domain in its entirety instead of concentrating only on identifying misconfiguration and weaknesses. So mitigation. AD enumeration is incredibly hard to defend against. Many of these techniques mimic regular network traffic and behavior, and which make it difficult to distinguish malicious traffic from normal traffic. So how we can mitigate it? So powerful AD enumeration techniques such as Sharphorn generate a significant amount of log-on events when enumerating session information. Since it executes from a single AD account, these log-on events will be associated with this single account. So we can write detection rules to detect this type of behavior, and also we can write signature detection rules for the tools that must be installed for specific AD enumeration techniques. And unless and used by employees of our organization, we can monitor the use of command prompt and PowerShell. And on a side note, the blue team themselves can also regularly use the enumeration techniques to identify gaps and misconfigurations in the structure of AD domain. So if we can resolve these misconfigurations, even if an attacker enumerates our AD, they would not be able to find misconfigurations that can be exploited. So now that we are done with enumeration, the next step is to perform privilege escalation and lateral movement, which we will cover in next video. So till then, learn more about AG enumeration, and I will see you in next video. Till then, keep learning.